The man had just struck a match to light his cigarette when he suddenly felt something was wrong. His expression immediately froze. It wasn't until the match burned his fingers that he snapped back to reality. When the bartender asked if he was all right, his teammate Jack suggested he was just tired and needed a drink to calm down. However, David E. picked up the glass, but it suddenly slipped from his hand. A strange sensation washed over him as he felt like he didn't belong to this world and that he might disappear at any moment. To verify his thoughts, he hurried to a phone booth, intending to call his family. However, within 3 seconds, he called Jack over, revealing that he had just spoken to his parents, but they didn't recognize him and even said they had no son. Jack thought it was a prank, but David was sure he was about to disappear. Jack suggested David was sick and advised him to rest. As Jack turned to leave, he noticed a newspaper on the table. Upon opening it, he saw a photo of the 3 of them successfully returning from space. However, now the photo only had him and another teammate. This unsettled him, and he immediately went back to the phone booth to find David. But when he arrived, David had vanished. Jack asked the bartender where David went, but the bartender claimed he came alone. Jack couldn't believe it. He looked at the newspaper again, and the photo still only showed him and another teammate. When he looked up at the bartender had a completely innocent expression, which made Jack even angrier. He started shouting that everyone in the place was crazy and making a pointless joke. At home, Jack told his wife about the strange events, but she claimed she didn't know who David was. Jack was stunned, and his wife began asking if he was sick. Just then, the phone rang, and Jack answered it. It was the general asking him to return to base. Jack immediately asked the general if he remembered David, but the general said he didn't know anyone by that name. Jack still couldn't accept the situation. He went to find another teammate, Peter, who was still in the hospital. Peter also claimed not to remember David and insisted that only he and Jack went to space. Jack tried to convince Peter by showing him the newspaper, but Peter firmly stated that there were only 2 people on the plane. Jack, frustrated, stopped arguing and began muttering to himself, his demeanor becoming strangely calm. He suddenly ran out of the hospital in a frenzy, with Peter quickly chasing after him. Within seconds, David disappeared. Peter rushed to the nurse, asking her to find David, but she claimed she didn't know who David was. When Peter pointed to the bed, he found it was empty. David had seemingly never existed. Peter began to question everything, staring at the empty bed and the newspaper, now showing only his own picture. Then the nurse led the team visiting Peter to the room, and when they opened the door, it was completely vacant. This strange situation made everything even more mysterious.